Welcome to another edition of A Strange New Pod, coming to you via the Twitch Subspace channel. I'm your captain and host, Julian Brown, alongside my amazing, awesome co-hosts, the board queen of puns, Ensign Brittany, and the only man who can rival John Luke's Rise of Beach Pod, Lieutenant Hawk. And
how this rumor got started.
I started it. It was me. I believe it. It's true.
Those black and white Broadway photos did it this week.
I was there. I saw it happen. I watched it happen. Don't tell me it didn't happen. And our guest and member of our awesome Discord mod squad, and just at this point, you've just become a recurring go-host contributor.
Yes.
And yet you still give us our money, so thank you. Or
like
your
a
money,
trill, she has wormed her way into our hearts.
She has. Spotted Giraffe, welcome and glory to you and your houses. How is everybody doing tonight?
Living the dream.
Warm.
Warm. I think we're all just warm and tired.
It was warm when I was out there.
Same here, warm.
Yeah, I think Lexi, one of our Discord collective members, was like, it's 28 Celsius in Scotland. We were not built for this. So it's hot everywhere. So here we go, guys. We are live. It is our 39th episode. Before we go ahead, I just want to say that I just want to say Ensign Aaron is off doing wedding things tonight, where Romulan ale will not, quote unquote, not be served. And Rear Admiral Eric, well, if you don't know already, we'd like to congratulate him and his family once again on the birth of their beautiful daughter, Tala. Welcome to Starfleet Academy, young one. Yay, congratulations. So that is why he is not here tonight. New father and all that. We'll see him soon. I'm sure he'll be here doing all the good lower deck stuff with us shortly. So that's where those folks are. But this is episode 39. This is warping into representation. And for more on why we're doing that episode this week, I will hand it over to Spotted Giraffe, who will tell us, what exactly are we talking about with representation this week?
So you ask us what we want to talk about every month. And I was like, hey, you know what? We should talk about representation, because that's something that comes up very often in our conversation. And we know that Star Trek, the original series, paved the way for so many things. And now even Discovery and Picard are still continuing in this on this way. But I have to say, I'm very excited about the topic we chose, because I've heard a lot of podcasts doing this topic, or even like articles or interviews talking about it. But I think the point that we're going to talk about tonight are kind of new. So I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree, right? Like we'll talk about some stuff that has been talked about before, but I think there's also stuff that, may not get a lot of attention that doesn't really get seen. So I've been really excited to do this one. So before we get into it, we actually have some news. And first thing I'll say is that we only have a couple more episodes to go before we're talking about new episodes of Star Trek, which is fucking just so exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Get in, Ensign. We're doing sci-fi shit.
It's like an injection. You're like, yes.
Dude, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. That's right. We are going to be talking new episodes of Trek with Lower Decks returning on August 12th. So we have today's episode that we're recording right now. And then next week, for the end of the month, we'll have our usual Patron's Choice episode. And then we'll wrap up kind of like our topics that we've chosen to do over the past few months or so. And with our second part of like a massive best of species series that we've been doing with our 2-part Cardassian series. And that is called the Cardassian Reunion. I thought Brittany would appreciate that name. And I believe Hawk or Brittany.
I thought it was bringing up the rear.
Ooh.
Cardassians.
Do I get was that just a bad pun? Was it a bad pun?
Yeah, it was a bad pun for a reason.
Oh, okay.
Get off my bridge.
I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to make sure. But either Hawk or Brittany, or I think maybe both of you are going to collab and host that one. I won't be here for that one, but
we'll make it happen.
It's going to be great. That's going to be a great episode. And then after that one, who knows how much new Trek we're getting after that, right? Because Lower Decks and then maybe Discovery?
Prodigy, all of it together.
I'm thinking Prodigy before
it's
Discovery.
All going like boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, really? And then I mean, tomorrow we're probably getting the first ever trailer for Prodigy. So I'm ridiculously excited about that. Look at Giraffe; she's like going giddy.
I want a Strange New World trailer, please.
Please.
What do I
love
have
of
to
God.
beg? Like, what do I have to do? They can
I think
tell
you
me
get
I'll
a
do
teaser.
anything.
I think that your
I think we'll get a
shrine.
teaser.
I think your shrine to Ethan Peck's abs is not strong enough because obviously we haven't got
What?
the trailer yet.
Hey, she just shows him a lot of respect.
Exactly. Exactly. Lots
Shut
of
up.
respect.
And that's not Ethan all of it.
They have to be close, right? They just finished filming the finale, so like
Yeah.
we should see a trailer, I guarantee, by late August.
You
He's
heard
gonna
that
stalk
here
your
first
world.
from the
Yeah.
best Bison Beach bod, Lieutenant Hawk, by August 1st, you said, or September 1st?
I say late August.
Okay,
We're gonna
late
get it.
August. All right.
Playing it safe.
Just
Yeah.
before we continue with our news, Joe on Discord would like to say that I love your uniform, Spotted Giraffe. It is amazing. Joe also said that we can get 52 weeks of new Trek, to which I say, God fucking help us, because that's going to be a lot of podcasting. Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm ready
We're
for
here
it.
for
I'm
it.
ready.
We're here.
So-
we're all here.
We are all here for it. On the subject of Lower Decks, starting on August 2nd, so that's coming up in 2 weeks, leading up to the premiere of season 2 of Lower Decks, we'll be watching an episode of the show every night on our Discord watch along channel until the season premiere for season 2. You're going to want to join us for this because we actually have a surprise giveaway that we're going to be doing every single night that we watch an episode. Aaron and I are the only ones who know what that surprise is, but it's a really cool surprise. She helped me with it. I'm really excited about it, but we'll be doing a giveaway every night for 10 nights, which is really cool. I'm getting goosebumps talking about that too. So on our Discord server, watch alongs. That's going to be a drunken good time too. I think you can't like not drink margaritas, right? If you're not watching Lower Decks,
I
or
heard
if you're
someone say
watching
Lower
Lower
Decks.
there she is. She's ready to go. Brittany's been looking for a reason to put that on.
I started rewatching
You
it the other
don't
day, and I was like,
need a
I love
reason.
this shit.
No, you don't need a reason.
I never need a
so,
I
yeah,
wore this to work like 3 days in a row when Julian first got it for me. And people were like, oh, that's a cool jacket. And I was like, it's Star Trek.
you assholes. So you're going to want to watch those with us, and we will actually reveal what that surprise is and what that giveaway is next week. And speaking of giveaways, finally, we have our Star Trek Discovery Season 3 Steelbook winner to announce, along with second and third place. I want to say, first of all, thank you to everyone who participated and joined for sharing your favorite moments from Season 3. They were a lot of fun to read. We had a lot of entries, just like our Lower Decks contest, which is awesome. And so Hawk, would you like to read who came in third place?
Can I do the drum roll?
Yeah, can you do I forgot to put the soundbite in again. So yes, please do the drum roll.
So coming in third place is Hurricane Barca, aka Andrew Barca, whose favorite moment was Discovery entering Starfleet headquarters and seeing all the new starships like the Voyager, J, Nog, and other wild designs. Congrats, you win an ASNP prize packet with stickers and pins.
Yeah. And you'll be getting one of the surprise things in that prize pack that we'll be announcing next week. So that's
It's a
also exciting.
surprise pack.
Get off my bridge.
I got my second win.
And Brittany, do you want to do second place, or should we let Giraffe do it? It's up to you. I'll leave it up to you.
Giraffe do it.
Giraffe, who came in second place for our Discovery contest?
I'm ready. I'm ready. So coming in second place, it's Stevelata.
Sure.
1701. Sure. Whose favorite moment is when Burnham is stoned on Andorian truth juice. Yeah, okay. Easily a top 5 highlight of the season. I love that moment too. Damn.
Yeah.
Best GIF ever.
Damn.
Damn.
It's my favorite GIF of the season.
Yeah.
Congrats,
I was obsessed with
you
that
win.
moment.
Oh,
Yeah, you could say it.
congrats, you win a Space Seed Can Funko Pop, an ASNP prize pack of stickers and pins.
Here it is. There's the con Funko. It's really cool. It's really cool.
It's
You
beautiful.
can't see the finer details, but he's actually like crushing a TOS phaser in his hand. It's actually
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
I may buy it
You
now.
out of control.
Yeah. And then finally, well, Brittany, do you want to read it or should I just do it? You should read it. You should read it.
Okay. And finally, our grand prize winner is Kate Mora at JediCat71, who said that Carl revealing himself as the Guardian Forever was a squee moment for me. Congrats, Kate. You win a steelbook copy of Star Trek Discovery Season 3 and an ASNP prize pack of stickers and pins.
Yay, there it is. And this is the steelbook. It's awesome. I opened my copy already. It's very cool. I love the Federation logo on it. It's really neat.
Hope you enjoyed my announcer voice.
I always like your announcer voice. And Joe on Twitch says that Kate is really cool. So I'm glad she won. Kate is very prominent on Trek Twitter, and she's awesome. And
Kate
actually,
Mulgrew?
No, that would be extra
That'd be
awesome. But no, not Kate Mulgrew. Kate
All Kates are great.
is super fantastic. So glad that she won. I'm glad all of our winners won. As always, we do this completely randomly. We put everybody's name in a random generator, and these were our top 3. So I almost choked on my own air.
How about Kate? We hope to see more of you.
Oh, there's another one. I'm not even going to give you a soundbite for that one.
Okay. Well.
Congrats to all of our winners once again, and thank you to all who participated. I'm not sure when our next contest will be. It'll come. It'll happen. It'll be there. We'll do it. It'll be fun. It'll be cool. We do contests often. We're getting some more cool things. We're getting some more Funko Pops, so we'll be giving those away at certain times. So yeah. Finally, before we get into the main show, we just have to quickly thank our Patreon Collective members at the Ready Room level and above. And I'm just going to go through those real quick so we can move on. Simon Stager, Jeff Reeve, Mariah Gossett, Ann Bradley, Spotted Giraffe, who is on our show. Hey there. Rob, Jen Stein, Tina Alexander, Joe Saporito, Noe Santos, Kang Hui, JD, Takako Nagumo, Kara Kennedy, Mark, Dana Pearson, Fernando Nogales, and SMK. Thank you to all of our awesome patrons for supporting our show. And if you'd like more information on our patron program and collective perks, all that, head on over to strangenewpod.com and click on the Patreon tab. And that's that. Guess what time it is, guys? What are we going into next? It's that fun thing we do every week.
A strange new loop.
That would be it. I thought Hawk was going to say it too, so I paused. It is the strange new loop. And well, we're going to discuss a lot of representation in Trek in depth on the show here in a few minutes. My question to you guys is, and of course, please Twitch Collective, give us some answers as well. Who or what do you think does not have enough representation in Trek still this day and age? And where and when would you like to see that representation? Who would like to go first? Brittany, hit it.
I think the discourse should go towards disability representation in media. So you know that we talked about that with Star Trek. There's a lot of traumatizing events that happen to people. There's a lot of crazy stuff, but a lot of times the characters are just fine by the next day. And I mean, the most we see with something like that really happening is, Pike in the original series. So I would like to see, it's a Star Trek future and all these people have these awesome jobs on spaceships. Like, can we see people who are in wheelchairs? Like, I know that science has come so far in the future, but not everybody needs to be, quote, fixed like that, Like, there's a lot of people that are able to do lots of things with various abilities. So I'd like to see that, whether it's the actors themselves or characters that actually are like that. So
yeah.
Cool.
I agree with you. I was watching some episodes of Trek to get ready for tonight, and it was a little rough. Like, officers going back on duty and just like everything's okay. It gets hand waved away like, oh, you just did this, and this, but you're okay. So I mean, I'm gonna kind of piggyback on Brittany's answer, but that was kind of what I was gonna say too. So please stop with the hand waving of things away. Discovery has gotten there a bit and has started making that better to an extent, but that was not the case during the early days of TOS and TNG era of Trek.
Yeah, and on Twitch, Rob is speaking about Ken Mitchell in Discovery.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I have to add that learning differences, like Spock is dyslexic in Discovery. I mean, Discovery is opening new doors. Let's be honest, it's pretty cool.
Well, and I wonder too if Tilly is on is meant to be on the autism spectrum a little bit, because I've gotten that vibe from her from time to time.
Yeah, I know other people have pointed that out as well.
Yeah.
And then,
has to do with people and their ability to register social cues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. Hawk, how about you?
I don't know if that's something that necessarily needs representation, but it's something I would, I'd almost love them to erase from Star Trek.
Oh boy, do I have a list of that.
It had to do with this one in particular episode of TNG, and that where we're introduced to these people called the Bryn Loidy. I don't know if you remember that.
Which episode was this?
It was really early on, probably season 2 or maybe even season 1.
This wasn't the Irish episode, was it?
The Irish.
Oh,
episode.
it was.
It's so painful to watch, and that the horrible accents, just like the sheep and hay and everything.
All right, maybe Giraffe will disagree with me on this. I don't know if she will, but I would say that episode is almost as bad as far as just being completely racist towards the Irish as Code of Honor, because it's fucking bad. It is bad because they're sheep in that episode.
Oh, look at the jokes.
I do not remember that episode at all. So I don't know. Code of Honor has been voted the worst Trek episode ever. Let's be honest. So I don't know. I have to watch it. Do I want to watch it? Should I watch it?
I mean, literally, they transport a bunch of I guess Irish descendants aboard the Enterprise, and the first thing that you see in the cargo bay, because there's too many of them to go in the transporter room, is literally just hay on the ground with sheep and animals, stereotypically dressed with the worst stereotypically Irish accents in the entire world. I mean, it is pretty fucking bad.
I wish they wouldn't have done that.
How about when they caused a little minor scuffle in that when they were trying to put together a still in one of the cargo bays?
I actually kind of love that scene, though. I mean, let's be honest. But also just the sexism, right? Of immediately the one the daughter of the chief of the Irish trying to get with Will Riker, because of course Will Riker, right?
Right.
Come on. Yeah.
We should watch it just for
we can watch it right after the show. Should we do that tonight?
We should.
I think that's our watch along for tonight. We need something because Brittany can't do Orville tonight. So
dear God.
That's gonna be a fun one. Before we move on, I will read some from Twitch. Joe does agree. Oh no, the Irish episode is so bad. He also says, I think they need to have, and this is something that Brittany I think is going to be talking about a lot tonight, more gay and lesbian relationships, which yes, 100%.
More explicit gay shit. They're everywhere. There's so many of us.
Go ahead, Giraffe.
I have some because I didn't do my loop. So I wanted to
sorry, I thought you did your loop. That's my bad. I'm sorry.
So I spoke about what Britt said, but I wanted to add that I think there's not a lot of people from the Hispanic community in Trek. And I rewatched Faces and Lineage in Voyager with Belena Torres. That I think is the only one that is supposed maybe.
And there's Culber.
Yeah.
But he's
Culber,
right.
Yeah.
But that was such a huge deal because people were like, oh shit, Puerto Ricans are finally in space. And you're like, holy shit.
Was the actress in season 2 of TNG who played that young ensign in engineering who spilled coffee on Jean-Luc of Latin descent? She's going to be in Lower Deck season 2 as well.
The fact that you had to say that specific thing.
I know, right? It's that is exactly what Giraffe was trying to say.
Ensign number 3 from episode 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's something they could do better.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
Rob says Sonia Gomez was the character.
Yes, there you go.
How does he know that?
Because he's Rob.
Because he's Rob.
Dude, between Rob and Hawk and just the amount of people we have, you guys just, I'll be like, I don't remember the name of this alien species. And 3 seconds later, they'll be like, they showed up in 5 episodes. They are not the Bolians. They are this. And I'm just like, okay, cool.
I love how Brittany immediately went to, they are not the Bolians.
Not the Bolians. Because I'm thinking about Mariner all the time.
Oh, God.
She was the free boob prostitute in Total Recall.
She was indeed.
Rob, enough.
Oh, no, but he's not wrong. She absolutely was. She absolutely
I know
was.
Exactly who she is.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, boy. Oh. This episode's off to a great start. So we're going to be watching that episode of TNG after the pod's over.
Up the Ladder, season 2, episode 18.
Let's do it. Oh, this is going to be horrible. Let's get into our show, and that is Warping into Representation. And Giraffe, as our guest and co-host tonight,
Guest of honor.
our guest of honor. I mean, is she really a guest of honor?
You're better than the episode about honor.
She's on the podcast so much. She was literally on the podcast, even when she wasn't on the podcast, at the bottom of the screen for like 2 months. Remember that?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but now I have to go and rewatch all the videos because I want to see.
Giraffe is co-host number
6.
He's like
Six.
six mic on this now.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, she's pretty much the what do you call it, the understudy? She's like, oh, Eric,
The understudy. I'm the cadet.
Eric, Brittany Hawk can't make it out. Let's get Giraffe. Not a bad thing. At one point, she's gonna have to stop giving us money because she's on so much, and that would just be weird. Anyway, guys, right. She's like, I'm just going to keep giving you money because I love your fucking show, which we say thank you. Let's talk about our show, guys. Warping into representation. Giraffe, you are our guest and co-host tonight. And tell us what you would like to speak on.
So I've been speaking about it for a week now on Twitter. So I want to speak about multiracial identities. In Trek and biracial character in Star Trek, because I think for me it was the first show where it was something that people would talk about with Spock, evidently, and then it got me thinking, and I worked on that list of episodes with Rob, and we slowly realized that every biracial character in Trek is tragic. Like, not tragic in like they're bad, but like tragic in the idea of tragedy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like they end poorly, they're here to suffer, and basically they're here to show that the world is not a utopia yet, that they cannot be accepted. And sure, we speak about biracial characters that are half human, half something else. So I'm not gonna speak about Keiko and Miles O'Brien's daughter. What's her name? Help me.
Molly.
Molly, thank you.
Yep. I know I was about to say Miles again, but I was like, that's not right.
That's wrong.
Miles the second.
I knew it was an M, but I was like, Miles.
Because for Trek, she's human, right?
Yeah.
So she's not really considered biracial, and that's what is interesting in the show. I think they ask a question like for the future and what happens when, you know, we have people like Spock, like Belena Torres, like Toraziel in DS9, and
Naomi Wildman.
So I'm gonna do two exceptions. Okay, Naomi Wildman and Deanna Troi. They're the only two in Trek that somehow don't suffer immensely about being biracial. And I think the fact is that they don't really talk about it. Like, it's like they're human passing, you know? So it's okay. Like Deanna Troi, okay, like she's basically human, like if you think about it. She's a telepath, but they never really speak about it. But if you look at TOS, where Spock is called a half-breed, like literally every 2 episodes in a bad way.
Or they're like
they acknowledge.
Yeah.
Well, especially during the Romulan episodes, right?
So I didn't rewatch this one because I watched Drumhead in TNG that I think is a very good echo to Balance of Terror. But I watched Journey of Babel because there's this whole thing with his mother that I find hilarious. So let's not speak so much about Spock because I think everybody.
Well, that's what you would immediately think.
Are
right?
you saying you're stuck between a rock and Spock and a hard place? I just ruined my own joke.
Oh, you ruined it.
I also hit the wrong button because I've already.
It threw me off. I heard "dude" and I was like, "rock."
That was weird. Let me try this one.
Get off my bridge.
That's going to happen a lot tonight.
That's what. That's how they treat the biracial characters.
By the way, just like to finish about Spock, there's this amazing letter that Leonard Nimoy wrote in a newspaper to a biracial girl that wrote to him asking for advice because her mother is Black and her father is white, and she doesn't know how to navigate the fact of being biracial. And it's really cool piece to read. Just the last thing I'm going to say about this. And let's move to Belena Torres.
Wait. Real quick, before we move on to Belena Torres, I want to ask you a quick question about this because something that Joe brought up on Twitch. I know you didn't want to talk about Spock too much, but I think it's important. He says he has a huge problem with McCoy because of how he treated Spock so often on the show. What are your feelings on their relationship? Because it's obviously talked about as being more friendly than anything else, but you could also look at it like McCoy was xenophobic and kind of a shithead for all that time as well.
So it's interesting because if you watch Balance of Terror, there's this moment where Kirk goes no bigotry on the bridge and like literally like draws a line, but he kind of like tells McCoy to like, you know, tone it down or like, but it's always a banter with Spock. I feel there's a back and forth that you feel maybe he's not so annoyed about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good that they put it in the show because let's be honest, it was the 60s and biracial people would hear these things. And I think that they're driving a point too. But I mean, TOS has a lot of issues.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does.
But I like the fact that Spock always like not defend himself, but you know, he always answers. He always like talks back.
He
didn't play it McCoy.
But it never gets to him.
Well, no, it never gets to him. And Spock basically used on McCoy whatever the Vulcan version of sarcasm is on him. Like, I see what you're trying to do. I don't have any emotion. Fuck off. You're an asshole, but you're also my best friend. So I'm going to let it slide.
But you see in If Memory Serves, I didn't mess up the name of that episode today.
For a minute, I thought you were trying to think of it, and you're like, if memory serves.
Yeah, If Memory Serves, that's very interesting that they reused the same words, half-breed, and that whole scene with Burnham that has to say it out loud, and you see her face, her pain to have to like relieve it and say it again. I think it's really interesting because obviously Discovery knows very well TOS, like that's a given.
Yeah.
And that the choice of that word and the reaction of Burnham saying it and the non-reaction of Spock is really interesting. And I think they really like pushed that commentary into the 21st century because it's a very painful episode to watch. Like it's very hard to watch.
Oh yeah,
like
it makes me cry
I was
when
like,
she says it. Yeah. I'm like, no, Burnham, why do you have to be mean?
Yeah, exactly. So can we speak about Belena Troyes?
Yeah, we can talk about her a little bit.
I'm just going to go fast about like Simon Tarsis in TNG and Tora Ziyal. That were the two others that I had chosen. Simon Tarsis, that is a fourth Romulan. Is that the story? Yes. And he gets like basically witch hunt out of the Enterprise. We don't know what happens to him, by the way.
No, he was basically because he lied on in his application to Starfleet and that he was probably just going to pick up like work on a cargo shuttle and that. But
I do think that he didn't get transferred though at the end of that episode, did he? I think that
I have no clue.
It's not said.
If I'm Picard, if I'm Picard, he's not going anywhere.
But I think it's like one of these like tragic biracial characters here, like to suffer. Like he's a fourth Romulan, and he's Vulcan passing. I really like that.
Yeah,
Vulcan passing.
Well, I mean, the Romulans during TNG. That is not a show. TNG. You're finding your chi while watching TNG.
G.
Star Trek is calming.
Well, and now I lost my train of thought. God damn it.
Your train of thought?
Yeah. Anyway, I think the Romulans during TNG were very much made out to be like the Russians. So like this was very like, oh shit, is like they're a spy on our ship now. Like that's what probably immediately everybody was thinking. So it would have been great for TNG to follow up on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so, but I don't think it was the question that was like the social question. That's the interesting thing about multiculturalism and biracialism is that it's never the social question of the moment. You're like kind of in the middle, like you're not white enough. I mean, I'm going to speak about myself. I'm not white enough. I'm not black enough. You're always like kind of like navigating both of it. And I think that, let's be honest, Trek does a terrible job at representing biracial people, even if they're half human, half Vulcan, Betazoid, whatever you want. It's a terrible job. First of all, the half. Can we stop saying that? I'm not half something. I'm a whole person. They're never shown as a whole ass person. Like they always have something. I'm half Vulcan, half human. Like not totally human. No, he's and human and Vulcan. And I think the only badass that actually drives the point on it is Kayla in TNG, where she's like, no, I'm Klingon and human.
It's actually a great point.
Praise.
Yeah. Yeah. And she was respected, right? Like, because she was just straight up like, listen, I'm both, but no matter what, like, I will talk you down and I will kick your ass.
And she embraced that. Whereas some people see like half of what they are as like, you know, I'm also half this, which I'm ashamed of.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting that, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I said, yeah, she's fully accepting of her identity and that, not as like two halves of one whole, not, but just a whole person. And because of that, she had to die.
Exactly.
Speaking of
yet
dying.
again. Yeah. And like she's fully Klingon, she's fully human. She can navigate both. And that's why she's an excellent agent too. Let's be honest. But then TNG does that character. And then Voyager gave us B'Elanna Torres. So as much as I love B'Elanna Torres, and Erin is going to hate me, this character has so many problems. Like the way B'Elanna Torres was written is so questionable. I rewatched 2 episodes and I suffered through it all. Faces, which is in my opinion, one of the most terrible episodes of Trek. But it's not seen like it because again, it's not really a social question that people like want to discuss, you know? But the way her Klingon half is like described, like barely speaking, like it's all painful. And then the end, when she's like, oh, well, I guess I will have to, you know, fight with her until the end and be in pain and never in peace. You're like,
yeah, it's intense.
What are you talking about?
The one thing I'll say with that is I feel like she at least in some ways stays true to that, right? Like she's always been more in touch with her human side than Klingon side, even going way into, I think it's like the episode right before the finale in season 7, where the Klingons show up and she's like, this is not me. This is not who I am. Like, and she has to try and embrace it and doesn't do like the greatest job because she's always felt more human than Klingon.
Dude, when she tried to shape her baby into being like having a different different image completely, I was so stressed. I was like, just let your baby look kind of Klingon. Like, there's no problem with this. And it gives her old childhood flashback and why she's so like messed up and ashamed of herself. And you're just like, I want to help you. Come here.
Yeah, right. Well, okay, so two more things
or some shit. Like,
2 more things. The problem is that, yeah, she doesn't evolve from that. And let's be honest, I'm gonna tone it down to like I've been at war with a half of me. Like, Drake wants me to say that, but like sometimes you're like, you know, I don't want this piece of my other culture. Sometimes you're like, I don't want to look like that because I'm fucking tired of people asking me, where are you from?
Mm-hmm.
You don't look like you're French. Like, really? Like, you know, sometimes I'm like, I wish like I, you know.
There's a lot of people that don't think Black people can be French for some reason. And I'm like, do you know anything about France? Like, I'm just like, what?
So, yeah, I mean, I understand that, but she's an adult. This is a question you have when you're a teenager. And if you're still battling the same things when you're an adult, you need therapy. You need to work your shit through.
But once again, where in Star Trek is the therapy? We need therapy for all these characters. Nowhere to be found.
And the thing that kind of like pisses me off, not kind of like that pisses me off, is that where does she find peace? Where does she find guidance? Tom Paris, the cis white dude, is going to explain to her how to be like
I came back right at the right
biracial.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. Like,
I know.
Really? He's always the one. No. Like, you don't have to eugenic your baby. Get out. Get out.
When Tom Paris is the voice of reason, something is wrong.
He's literally like the daddy's boy, like father of the Starfleet admiral. Like that's the person she goes to. Oh my God.
He's the one being the voice of reason and like stopping her from like basically she becomes again biracial because she's gonna die in Faces and she doesn't have the choice. If she had the choice, she would stay human. And you're like, great writing. I have to add that the guy that wrote it for his biracial adopted brother to help him go through his struggles. And you're like,
he made it worse. His brother needed toy stem therapy. Jesus Christ.
Hawk, what were you going to say?
Man.
Oh, nothing.
It looked like you were going to say something. Sorry. Let me read on Twitch from Takako real quick. We need more multiracial characters who have integrated both or all parts of their respective heritage and see the aspects of themselves in a holistic way. Not everyone is quote unquote ashamed or otherwise have problems with one side or another.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm gonna finish on one thing. So Discovery is the show that we're all looking up to because they did an amazing job at integrating different characters, different origin, different stories. But then I was like, okay, who's biracial in Discovery? So we don't know where Book is from and what his story and what's up with him. But we have actually one biracial character. It's in Unification 3, and it's Shira. So when they do the Tikal and Ket, you have 3 representatives for Nivar, right? One is fully Romulan, one is fully Vulcan, and she's Romulo-Vulcan. And I took notes. Let me grab my notes. I'm sorry. I took notes because they argue at one point. See, I'm half prepared. I'm almost prepared.
Hey, it's good that you have notes. Some people
I took notes because it actually like
helps.
No, struck me like when I watched the episode because I watched it several times and I really liked this episode. And I was like, now that I pay attention, that's interesting because there's no way to say that she's biracial except for a feature and memory of but anyway. So when they argue in the end, like the Romulan want to give the data, the Vulcan doesn't want, and she's like, well, like we can talk about it. There's a way to find like a middle ground. And they yell at her and they tell her, you sit in the middle trying to be everything and nothing. And that line pained me a lot because that's the thing that like I've heard it again and again and again, you know, like you're everywhere and nowhere. And I think most probably that line was like written for a reason in that show, but 900 years in the future on Nivar, 100 years after a unification, you're like, oh, fuck off.
do you think that line's written also to be a parallel to Burnham as well? Because she's quote unquote on that line because she's fully human, but was raised by Vulcans. I mean, she considers herself, like you said, you don't really want to be classified or anything, right? Like she's human and Vulcan, even if she's not like actually Vulcan.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I can speak for people that were adopted in a different a family from another race because it was not my case, so I don't really know what they're going through and how they identify themselves. But I do think that it's actually the thing that I had to discuss the most when I was saying that I was doing that topic. Everybody was telling me, oh, but there's Worf and there's Burnham. And I was like, they're not biracial.
Right.
They have 2 cultures. Yes. They're like
but they're
adopted in another family, but they're not actually biracial compared to B'Elanna or to Spock again. And I think that's where the interaction between Spock and Burnham can like be watched again in that idea that he is biracial. She's not, but she feels, she kind of like understand what he's going through.
Yeah. And
that's an interesting thing to like think about and to discuss, I think.
Yeah. I agree.
I hate Faces. I want Discovery to give us more.
Yay.
And yeah, that's all for me.
Yep. Give us biracial characters, give us biracial actors. Make it happen.
All
And
of
make
it,
it not
please.
be.
Michelle Hurd. Michelle Hurd is.
Well, just don't make it.
biracial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she is. Don't make it
Ian
a thing.
Alexander is
Yeah.
too. Like,
Just
we got it.
do
We're
it.
kicking.
Just do it. Brittany, we're gonna move on to you with Gays in Space, aka LGBTQI representation in space and Star Trek. So give us what you got.
Well, we're gonna begin at the beginning. Where
Begin
there was...
at the beginning. You're gonna begin at the beginning.
Yep.
I have a soundbite for that. It's this one. I like to play it every now and then.
I can't wait.
Well, I think we have to tell him the truth.
If we tell the truth, the timeline.
Timeline. This is no time to argue about time. We don't have the time.
It's my
Yeah.
favorite quote from the movie ever.
Well, back to the original series, which, in case you didn't notice, had no gay characters at all. Although fans really wanted Kirk and Spock to happen, aka lovingly called Spurk, in which many a fanfic was written, and people still hope and ship for them to this day and forevermore. But at least with that original series, you did have George Takei. Is it Takei or Takei? I hear
Takei.
they say
Takei.
Okay. George Takei did eventually come out as gay in the 2000s. So at least now, retroactively speaking, in the JJ verse films, they decided to then do a little subtle nod and make Sulu gay. But we'll get to that when I reach the JJ verse films.
Okay, I will be quiet. Well,
Because there is some controversy there.
well, let me ask you a question then, though. Does that, since that Sulu is gay in the JJ verse, does that mean that the Sulu from TOS is
No, AOS.
also gay? Okay, all right,
Alternate.
all right, okay.
And in fact, when they did that little thing in the JJ verse, which I'll get to later, and actually I'll just mention it now. When they originally did do that subtle moment where it's like, oh, here's a quick family shot and he's gay, like some people were like, wow, that's awesome, and other people were like, that's the representation we get.
Mm-hmm.
Even George Takei was like,
I remember that.
my character wasn't supposed to be gay, but I am, so I guess I'll allow it, but that wasn't the vision for the character. So it's kind of a want moment. Do I love it? Yes. But it's understandable why some people would be like, you shoehorn that in a little bit, but it's an alternate universe, so we'll allow it. So that was a little surprising. Well, I mean, it's not surprising. What I should say is, while Trek is a show where it's supposed to show a lot about the advancements in the future and all about more understanding between different people and different cultures and, championing for certain groups, it didn't do anything for queer issues or queer characters. So, womp womp. Thanks, TOS, for nothing.
Hey, Brittany, before you keep going, I have a comment here from Takako on Twitch, and wants to know. This is going back to Giraffe's topic. Has anyone heard or read about quote unquote third culture kids? I think the concept is useful in understanding multiracial, multicultural identity in people who spent their formative years in a second or third culture. I personally have never heard of it, but
I don't know about it, but I mean, it can make sense because there's so many people that, somebody could be born biracial, for example, and then something happens where they then live with another family who's a part of a different culture or race entirely. If their parents died in a car crash and then they go to like friends of the family or something that then raised them. So I can see there's probably a lot of different cases like that. I haven't heard about it and haven't studied it. I wasn't like in psychology or anything, or didn't learn about it when I was teaching. But it sounds interesting. I'll have to like read more into it. Anybody else? Did you hear about it?
No, but it's interesting. But I'm pretty sure there's something. It's kind of like ringing a bell, but my head is too full with things. So
Yeah.
But what is interesting is that all these people end up in Starfleet, though.
They do.
Have you noticed that?
There's a certain group
Big
that
family.
always will come.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I mean, even though Star Trek hasn't provided the best representation for a lot of things we're going to bring up today, like, it goes to show that the fandom is full of all these different groups of people and like we're attracted to those ideals. So I do want people to know that.
yes,
We're getting
agreed.
there. As we go up, the gay stuff gets better. So just hang in there. TNG. Moving on to the future. Do you think we did it, guys? Do you think there was more representation here? Barely. So
Not really.
No.
in TNG, the only episode I could really look into, because like I didn't have time to go through all the episodes and like try to figure it out. But there's one that sticks out, which is season 7, episode 17, called The Outcast, in which the Enterprise crew encounters a group of aliens called the Janai from a planet where binary gender doesn't exist. So, for the first time, we had a gender-neutral, like, society of people. And then you had one of these people, Soren, who, of course, you know, it's got to be a Riker episode.
Wait, it was a Riker episode? No, I'm kidding.
It was a Riker.
Yeah.
No,
was.
I'm being horribly
So-
sarcastic.
For anybody who doesn't remember, basically in this episode, the Janai, because they're gender neutral, they don't have the dichotomy that for some reason, you know, Western society does, or whatever you want to say, as having like specifically male and female. So for them, they're like gender neutral, these ideas don't happen. But this character was experiencing feelings as though they wanted to, like, they felt as though they were female. So, of course, this involves Riker romancing the character because, you know, it can't just be like, let me hear you out on your gender problems. It's just like, oh, so you're a female. So it's a bit problematic, but it is interesting because it basically boils down to the character explaining herself to the group of people that she comes from, that she's saying like that her feelings aren't unnatural in some way, and she's not sick because she feels this way. She doesn't need to be like cured or fixed or helped or anything like that, and that this is who I am, this is how I feel. So that sort of thing speaks to different people in the LGBT like group, because, you know, if you're trans, you can relate to that. If you're a lesbian, you can relate to that because you're like, oh, well, I'm feeling these things that are supposedly unnatural or not okay, but I'm not sick. I don't need to, you know, go to conversion therapy or anything. Like, this is just how I am. This is how I should be. So it's something. I feel like I'm just giving like a seminar. I feel like I'm just teaching.
Well, that's what we're doing.
right.
This
Like,
is like
wasn't
a round table.
Yeah.
wasn't the guy in First Contact supposed to be gay? Like the pilot? I don't remember.
Oh, is that from Cox?
There's
The guy that
no.
the guy-
On the
guy that was
Enterprise.
Oh,
the dude
that gets killed.
that gets killed off real quick.
Wait, who are we talking
Was he
about?
supposed to be gay?
I think he was supposed to be gay, and they cut it out of the movie.
Wait,
Help
in
me,
which,
Twitch.
in which movie?
Lieutenant Hawk.
Yeah, Lieutenant Hawk.
Oh, Lieutenant Hawk.
Ah!
Literally. Hawk. Yeah, I knew it was a bird name. Dang. Damn.
It was a bird name.
Rob, stop screaming. We're seeing.
I appreciate it. Thank you. But that would be cool. I mean, I would have taken a gay Hawk at some point in those movies. And I mean, Hawk, if you ever want to talk, I'm here for you. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so like, I mean, the episode was already called The Outcast, so, you know, there's certain themes and whatever related to people, and that's basically how most of Star Trek goes for a while. More past TNG, you get into my favorite series, except for like Lower Decks probably took it over. Deep Space Nine, aka the gayest Trek series besides Discovery, in that it was so inherently queer and gay. And queer people know this when they watch it. They're just like, wow, this show's really gay. But not really explicitly done, except for in a few cases. Like my girl, /he/she/worm, Jadzia Dax, which you can't see, but whatever, it's here.
Oh, worm.
Oh, worm?
Oh, worm.
So, DS9 is usually the one people think of right away in terms of like Star Trek, you know, LGBT representation, because you have the character Dax, who is a joined Trill. So when you learn about the Trill, you learn that they basically have like these multiple lives, basically. Like you can be a man in one life, a woman in another life, because you should have this shared symbiote. So you learn about Dax, and even though Dax in this lifetime is a woman, you learn that their immediate like life right beforehand, Dax was a guy. So you're like, oh, this is awesome. Buddies with Cisco, really cool, like gets along with Klingons, lots of awesome shit. And it's nice because along with that representation of like, you know, transitioning basically from male to female, etc., you also have that Jadzia doesn't really always conform to like femininity in some ways. Like there are some moments where she uses her femininity for a reason, but there's a lot of times where like you're like, I believe that this character was a man in the past life, or vice versa, or she doesn't have to act any way in particular because she's just Dax, you know? And I think a lot of people, especially trans individuals, found that as like an interesting like initial representation to happen in Star Trek, even though we don't really have our for sure trans characters until Discovery, which is in and of itself awesome, and I'll get to it.
There's this awesome moment where she's with the Klingon and he goes, Curzon, my old friend.
Yes.
And she's like, it's Jadzia now. And he's like, Jadzia,
Yeah.
my old friend.
Isn't it
It's
Kang or
Kang,
Kern?
it's
Yeah,
Kang.
yeah.
Yeah.
One of the Ks.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of my favorite moments because it's just like, Curzon, my old friend, and it's Jadzia now. So it's just like, yes, Jadzia. And that's how easy it is to get names and pronouns right, guys. As soon
For
as they
real.
say it, you do it. You
And
drop
if
that
you
other
fuck
shit.
up, just
Doesn't
get it
exist.
right and say sorry and move on. And
Yeah, make it quick.
it's easy.
Don't need to grovel.
I can do it in a foreign language, so come on.
Yeah. Where it's usually harder because everything's fucking gendered.
Yeah,
English is a
right.
little easier because you're like, you can call anything that.
English is easier, that's true.
You're like, the chair. Neutral. Anyway. Time to get to one of my favorite episode, which is Rejoined, the 6th episode of Deep Space Nine Season 4, in which Dax basically is kind of like reunited with one of their past loves, which is Lenara Khan. And they were married in a past life. So when they meet again, they're both females this time, but they both still experience this like level of attraction and like love for each other. So it's interesting because this is one of those cases where it's not Starfleet that's telling them something isn't okay, because Starfleet at this point, I guess they're like, we won't comment on it explicitly, but like, sure, girls can kiss. This is the 90s. We won't say it out loud, but we'll show it to you a little bit. Wink, wink. But in Trill society, this is taboo. This is a no-no. Basically, if you're a Trill, they got a symbiote, you got a symbiote, you can have a life together, but after that, you cannot reassociate. You will be ostracized. You are done. That was another life. You can't, like... It's really messed up, because you'd think this whole society that's built on people that live so many lives would let them have these connections, but... Ooh,
it's a messed up episode. It's a great episode, but it's like...
I feel like it's just pointing out like how some like organized religions promote things that ultimately hurt you, and that affects the LGBT community a lot, where we have a lot of religious trauma. So that's why I feel like that kind of goes with. But it was one of the earliest first same-sex kisses, and it was like the first one to happen in Star Trek as like a franchise as a whole. So take that for representation. Did I watch it after I went through a horrible breakup, and did I cry the entire time because it was basically my entire story? Yes. Did my cousin turn to me and go, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I was like, "They love each other, but they can't be together." Yeah, it was great.
Hawk, you were going to say something about that. Sorry.
Yeah. What is the reason? Why can't Trill like reconnect with each other after one lifetime together? It's just
like,
I think it's like some stupid technicality. Like we have technicalities with other bullshit in our society now.
It's a plot device.
Pretty much.
They just did it because they couldn't have her actually be lesbian on the show, but they're just like, let's be honest. What would you guys into this? And then they're like, okay, now it's stolen. But like the Trill, we're only just seeing more about them in Discovery now. So like you don't have Trill lore really. You see a few things about them. You see their homeworld a little bit, but other than experiencing things through Dax, they're largely just like, okay, you have multiple lifetimes. We don't know much more. Like Adira and Gray is like, whoa, what is this? Are we learning about things? Like, is this normal? So it's neat.
Rob writes, the reason they gave in the universe was because it limits the experiences of the symbiote.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Bullshit. Like,
come on,
they were like, you already had a whole
Plot
lifetime together. You can't have another together. Homophobic, that's what I say.
Let's be honest, yeah.
The Triller homophobic. Let Dax make out with women, damn it. So anyway, another thing about Deep Space Nine, this wonderful show, is that it had so much queer subtext. So that was a case where something was explicit. We actually saw Dax have feelings for another woman, assess them out loud. You were like, this is great. They kissed, and you're like, this is low-key canon, even though they break up.
Did you say Loki canon?
I did Loki
Oh.
canon. If you get what I'm going. We can talk about that taboo later on. I hate myself.
I don't.
Then you have characters like Bashir and Garrick, who everybody
on.
ships. You know they're gay. You know they're gay. The writers
It's
know they're gay.
obvious.
The showrunners know they're gay. The actors themselves acted it that way on purpose. But, once again, never explicitly stated, all subtextual, a little textual, you get what I mean? But it was like
Because
almost
Garrick
more
was
powerful
a
than
simple tailor and textures, right?
he's weaving that plot in there. Look at you with that thread. But yeah, arguably this is like the bigger gay ship than Kirk and Spock, of like the ship that you wish would happen and never really did. But it's one of those cases where when people ask about it, you know, the showrunners are like, oh, we would have been interested in exploring that further, but like
Mhm.
the show ended, and you're like, bullshit.
Yeah.
You wimped
Well, yeah,
out.
he ends up with fucking Esri. Like, come on, show.
That's
I mean,
don't
like
talk to me about
on one hand, I'm like,
Yes.
I'm happy that Julian, because you know, Julian got with someone, but at the same time, it's like, dude, even like I don't care how young I was, even I got the vibe like, holy shit, Julian and Garrett.
Right?
Come on.
Yeah.
man.
The first time
Everybody
they
deserves
meet, you're like,
somebody.
Like you didn't need to be, yeah, not a fucking rocket scientist to get that.
was homosexual on the highest level. So moving on, the only thing that I can maybe bring up for Voyager is just the fact that the wonderful Seven of Nine here, I felt was very queer throughout the whole show, even though they kept trying to put in moments where it's like, I would have been with a man, or I was with a man, and I'm just like, you explicit none of this in your day-to-day actions. You don't want to be with a man.
It's okay. She's with Raffi now.
She is, and thank God.
Right.
Thank you, fucking Picard. Thank you, Picard, because I literally was sharing a meme like the week before from the show One Day at a Time, where the character was watching it, like, and the younger brother says something like, whatever, you think, like, you know, Star Trek, like, everybody's gay in Star Trek or whatever. And she goes, Seven of Nine is gay. And then the next week on Picard, she was like holding hands with Raffi, and I was like, oh, they called it. So anyway, thanks for eventually making her queer, Star Trek, and not.
she's wearing a wedding ring.
I
In the
know.
trailer.
Anyway, let
Mhm.
her stay gay through the next season, even if Chakotay's got to appear. God damn it!
No, shh, don't say things like this. What are you saying?
But that was
here?
it for Voyager. I think I don't remember any other gay moments in
Not
that
really.
show. It was mostly just Seven.
Yeah.
But largely, a lot of moments you were like, "Oh, she seems like she's asexual, not even interested." And then there's some moments where you're just like, There's tension between you.
Yeah. Rob is saying Garrick and Julian have been so much better than that creepy Garrick ZL thing. I agree.
Yes,
I
100%.
agree so much.
Because that shit was
Yes.
borderline like statute of limitations, or what is it? The age gap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's talk about that.
She was a kid.
I mean,
man.
they had Tora ZL. They didn't know what to do with her. Like,
yeah.
again, tragic biracial. Let's kill her off.
Moving
Or
on.
let's disappear
Moving
her
on.
off. Yeah.
Moving on.
So real quick, you guys know the JJ verse films, not really queer characters until they decided to make Sulu gay, but also you did get Zachary Quino, who came out as
yeah.
gay, which was a big deal at the time.
Yep.
So
And he's amazing. I love him.
you're like, Spock might not be gay, but damn straight
Dude,
his
can I sidebar on this and also say, like, listen, I'm very open with my sexuality. I'm mostly
You know
straight.
you love Anson.
But hold on. Well, let's not get me going on Handsome Anson, okay? Because I'll go off. But listen, have y'all seen Zachary Quino's Instagram?
Oh my God!
have.
Yes.
I have.
Though
Holy
he hasn't
shit.
posted since December. What happened to him?
He's probably
And
getting,
him
he's probably
and-
getting Spock ready.
I'm sorry. And him and Ethan Peck have not posted on Instagram since December. I'm worried. What is happening?
Can we just talk about rival
the
abs,
Spocks
like
are-
the Ethan Peck Spock abs to the Zachary Quino spot? I mean, dude, that dude, whew, he is ripped.
Yep.
Bless Instagram. Bless.
Sorry, moving on.
The thirst is real for all the Spocks.
Joe says all men should love Handsome Anson, to which I say yes, they should.
So, moving on to the gayest Trek installment. Star Trek Discovery, where they truly discovered, wait, gay people do exist. And in the future. It's great because it's all so explicit. And even things that aren't explicit yet, there's a chance, right? And you know who I'm talking about. But on top of that, the amount of gay actors they have in this series is like, thank you. I didn't know I was watching the L Word in space. This is amazing. I say that, but I'm actually a lesbian who's never seen the L Word, so like.
And I'm the straight guy in the room who's seen like every single season of the L Word.
I've seen every single episode
I've
of
never
it.
seen the L Word, and it's like the thing that people always bring up to me, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, I haven't seen it.
You are a bad lesbian. Shame on
I
you.
am.
Lesbian.
Yeah,
I've only seen every other form of gay representation.
You didn't even see Queer as Folk? I watched every season of that.
No, I've seen Queer Eye though. That's gay guys though. I don't know. I'm struggling, okay? So anyway, Star Trek Discovery, this beautiful show. You have Stamets and Culber, just an openly gay couple. They kiss, they have their moments, their little cute like couple moments, and you're like, this is it. These are the gay dads in space.
And they're so fucking cute with their matching
are so
shirts and
cute.
toothbrushes.
Sorry.
What'd you do?
I pulled my headphones out. I was so excited. I slapped this out of my. They're so fucking cute, okay? I need to calm down. There might be children watching.
Probably not.
Okay.
Anyway,
Well,
they're
there's
great.
Rob watching. Does
It's
that
an-
count?
And they're openly gay. I didn't know how to respond to that. I'm trying to form a thought here. Anyway, you have these openly gay characters that are played by openly gay actors. That's also a big deal because can't tell you how many times people like Ben Affleck are like, it's the hardest thing in a man's career to kiss another man on the mouth. And you're just like,
Fuck off.
try being a
Oh,
female
yeah,
actress who has to
bullshit.
pretend to be raped.
Yeah.
And you might have actually had that happening in real life. So like, anyway, moving on. Then you have Tig Notaro, another openly gay person playing possibly an openly gay character. Tig is where it's at.
yes.
Yes.
We know. Jet's getting it.
Jet.
Whenever she's off the show, she's
There in spirit.
her
She's our
not-
She's our Bobcat.
Bobcat.
It's not food, it's candy.
Yep.
Amazing. And
Every
then
day.
part of season 3, you had Adira and Gray join non-binary, transgender characters played by similar actors. All the gays. So more gay actors playing more gay characters. And then you have other characters that aren't gay, still being played by the gays. I can't even tell you how much of the Disco crew is just gay, and I love it. Unfortunately, not Sneakwa.
Can we talk about
So,
OO and
a girl
Detmer,
can
please?
dream.
Thank you. That's what I was gonna say.
What was I saying?
I know I had to steal it from you because that's like that's my ship. That's my ship that I need to actually become canon.
Oh, Woe and Detmer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Whoa.
So Det-Woe is so real. First of all, people know I have emotions. But at least one of those actors is gay. So
Emily
Make it
Coots.
happen.
Yep.
we got Emily.
Yep.
We'll see.
We'll see.
So anyway, so much. And I'm sure there's even more behind the screen people that work on the show because obviously you finally have gay actors comfortable with being on a show. There's got to be good people behind the scenes making that happen. And yeah.
Is anybody gonna speak about Enterprise?
No. Well, that's the thing. I was going to say I have not seen Enterprise. And I know a lot about shows, what characters are gay, even if I've never seen the show before, because I exist on Tumblr. But like that's the thing. I'll see one GIF and I'm just like, well, I gotta watch that show for that 5 seconds that girl holds the other girl's hand. Makes me
I'm
feel
on
alive, damn
Enterprise.
it. Yeah, Enterprise, I've seen nothing, but I was told today that one dude whose name I already forgot. might be
Malcolm
gay.
Reed.
Malcolm Reed might
Reed.
be gay.
Malcolm Reed.
Maybe
He
possibly.
reads gay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks a
They
little.
actually-
Reed's gay. Yeah.
He reads gay.
They actually do. I'm sorry, but they do a decent work about biracial people with like, well, they kill them off, but
See,
they're
the
still,
fact
like,
that you have to
kind of
say
okay.
but.
Lorian is kind of okay, and like Tipple's
They do a
arc with
better
her
job.
baby, and the fact that they have this body from the future that is mixed, and that for them it's like, wow,
Mhm.
the Federation is gonna exist. We're gonna have a future. We're gonna have allies. It's gonna happen. It's
Yep.
cool. I'm gonna give them that. For the
I
rest,
didn't even bring up
no.
that they kill off
But
Dax. like
Yeah, they
every
kill
other
off-
lesbian.
yeah.
Oh
Well,
yeah, they kill off
in
Dax.
TV.
Yeah.
And Colbert.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
they bring
no,
him
I was gonna
back.
say, remember how
Colbert.
worried I was about Discovery, where I was just like, oh, this is dangerous. This is important,
like
but don't kill
killing-
them.
They like killing them off. Like, let's
They
be
like
honest.
killing the gays
Like,
because they want you to
yeah.
think they're just like, you think that this is okay.
Mm.
Just kidding, still not. And then you're like, I'm traumatized.
I feel like this is an awful.
Nothing will hurt me
segue.
as bad as Lexa's death did
Oh,
in the
dude.
100.
Can we not?
Nothing
Can
will
we
ever.
not bring that
No.
up because that was
I
awful.
have to because I'm still traumatized. I went into like a 3-month-long depression. Like my family legitimately was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like just about to come out, and I was like, "I hate everything." Or I
the
just come out,
rewatch
something
for
like
that week. The rewatch for that week has me
No.
traumatized for the month.
Oh.
Like I need off track. I need off.
It's bad.
We got to move on because we're
Moving on.
already
I'm done.
going
Sorry.
over time.
I was gonna say
Brit-
that was it for the gays.
the
we made
gays
it,
in space.
finally.
That was good though. That was
Finally.
awesome. And hopefully we get more with season 4 because Detwo needs to become officially official.
Whoa!
We're moving on to Hawk, who is going to talk about aging and elder issues in Trek and how it's been represented so far, if at all.
Yes, I'm gonna keep it pretty focused on like 2 episodes from TNG. It's becoming a very important topic to me, and that especially recently. In that, I don't want to go into too much detail on that, but it's really hitting close to home. So I'm going to focus on season 3's Sark. And season 4 is Half a Life. And again, thanks to Rob and that, because I completely forgot about Half a Life. So Half a Life from season 4 concerns the Enterprise's mission to Kalon 2. It's this research project in that they're trying to help them in that to restabilize their dying son. Dr. Timison, played by David Ogden Stiers. If you're a MASH fan, you remember him. He's a scientist whose life work has been to try and find a solution, and he hopes to find this answer before he dies. He even explicitly states this to the crew. The experiment fails, and he becomes very forlorn. And this is his final opportunity because, as we realize, he comes from a culture where, when they reach the age of 65, they commit ritual suicide.
I remember this now. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We learned that they created this ritual in order to save the person from the ravages of aging and to spare their families from watching their loved ones deteriorate and become different people, and also the responsibilities that come with that. It's in the 90s. It was a parallel to the Right to Die movement. If anybody remembers Jack Kevorkian and that, where people with terminal illnesses, they had the choice. Yeah. What it really examined in this episode is our own fears at both aging and caring for elders who are no longer able to care for themselves because of the mistakes of their past and the conditions that they allowed their elderly people to live in, and that the people of Kalon 2 developed the resolution. It's this little ceremonial party, and that they have a little celebration, and then they end their lives. Majel Barrett in this episode is fantastic. She's always been kind of that eccentric character as Lwaxana Troy in the series and that, but this one really gave her an opportunity to shine. Lwaxana and Timison, there's these amazing moments where they show the need for companionship that a lot of seniors in that, especially ones who experience the loss of a partner, still want and need. And they have this fantastic debate in the show, about like the 2 points of view in that. Lwaxana is like, you're young, you're still of healthy, of sound mind and that, and then he begins to tell her about everything that their civilization went through in that with the elder issues. And it's a really stunning debate to watch, and that just, you don't come away with a clear answer to it in that, but at least they did a really good job of exploring the issue in it. There's also Troy's interactions with Lwaxana, and that they also bring up another aspect of aging, and that is when the child becomes the adult in the familial relationship. That's when you start having to tell your parent and that what they can and cannot do, and then having to be there to comfort them when they feel that change in their role.
The Troy Lwaxana stuff was always very good when it wasn't comedic. When it took on excuse me, when it took on a more serious tone, it was always very, very good because it got to show off both of their acting chops in a really big way.
Yeah, I know. Instead of like, Luoxana just, hounding after her.
Berating Deanna. Yeah.
Berating her over her everything from her
Yeah.
appearance to her looks and that. Yeah. And then like, Troy, being there for her mother and that, and like understanding her, like with what she was going through. I'm going to move on kind of quick on this. I've already ran through all my notes on the episode.
Huck, can I bring up one thing that has to do with, I'm wondering, if any of this kind of has to do with the recent book that we read, the Wonderlands book, where Burnham goes on to this generational shrimp. I was going to say shrimp, guys. I was going to say shrimp. General shrimp. Oh, I'm on a roll. The generational ship, and you have these people who've been on the ship who are definitely, seniors or older, who have been so stuck in their ways that the youth have started to rebel against them. And I thought even in a book that was done really, really well.
There's a little in this episode. There is also a kind of a callback to that. These people in that they were asked in that if you knew your son was going to burn out within the next, they have like 40 years of life left in the sun. And if you knew that, then why didn't you just evacuate and find a new planet? The Klingons had to do, did the same thing, right?
Right.
They're so tied to their culture and to like they think their planet basically represents them as a people in that. And they said like without our planet and that, who would we be as a people in that?
Yeah.
Even Luoxana chides him in that with that argument and that during their conversation and that she says, well, if it's your time, maybe maybe it's your son's time too, and that maybe you should allow it to die out.
Would you consider that episode from Voyager where Tuvok is like stranded with? Yeah, because the thing is, like,
I was waiting to talk about it.
The way they age as they become younger, and then they go to that cave to die.
Episode.
Oh my god, it's so good. Tuvok dad episode.
He takes care of them. He takes care of them. He sings to them, and then he learns that they're actually old and they're here to die.
And they think a monster's gonna get them, but really it's just old age.
They're so scared. They're so scared of dying. That episode gets me. And Tuvok is fantastic in it.
He's so good. And you get why he's a dad too. You're just like, oh, yeah, but you're a good daddy. I love it.
I totally forgot about that one. That's a great episode too.
I'm tearing up. It's such a beautiful episode.
It is. It's so good.
I remember watching it the first time, and when they come and like, what are you doing here? They're here to die. And I was like,
yeah. And you're like, what the hell? And then when they explain, you're just like, these kids.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a beautiful episode. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, it's like aging, but it's a little reverse of what you're saying.
It's the care, like the care he gives to them, like how he like sings to them goodnight and like try to like save them from the monster and so on, and
or just being there at the end as opposed to like pushing them off.
Yeah,
people tend to do with the elderly.
Yeah,
like give them the care they need before they go out.
Yeah.
Anyway, Hawk, I sent this to a different quadrant. Go ahead, continue.
So I think for the purpose of the time, I'm going to move on that. The other episode I wanted to talk about was Sarek from season 3, episode 22, I believe, or 23. Anyways, Ambassador Sarek arrives on the Enterprise for a final diplomatic meeting with the Garans before a treaty is to be signed. After he comes aboard, there's an outbreak of random violence on the ship. The crew begins to attack each other, and it's revealed that the ambassador is suffering from Bendai syndrome, a disease which robs the sufferer of their mental and emotional stability. I love how in this episode, his wife Perrin and his aides, they take measures to hide the illness from everybody in that, which is this like very typical reaction in that when you're dealing with somebody, with any sort of like
I know this
illness
all too well. I just went through it 2-3 years ago with my cousin, and no one wanted to kind of admit it was happening, and I was the one who was the closest and saw it happening, and everybody was like, you shut your mouth, like it's not happening. Everything's okay, and that just wasn't the case.
No, it's never the case, and it's you deny it because you're really afraid of it and about like what it means for your future. And that's what everybody always thinks. Sarek, I believe this episode is very exceptional in the form of representation in that, because like prior to this episode and that like media coverage, any popular media coverage of Alzheimer's and that It's very limited. I took a quick look at Wiki and that just to see in that. And I think I saw maybe like 5 episodes, 5 different things on popular television up to that point from the 70s on that actually talked about, aging and degenerative illnesses. Let me see. And it was a masterstroke to have it be like a Vulcan, in particular, Sarek and that.
Mark Leonard does an amazing job here. Yeah.
Dude's a legend. He's an absolute legend on how he portrays this.
Yeah. They originally wanted to bring Spock back in this episode, and that, but apparently the whole thing revolved around a money issue.
Of course it did. Yeah.
And apparently some from blowback from Roddenberry in that, because he was still hesitant about like incorporating like TOS characters and that into TNG at this point, even though we had DeForest Kelly in the opening episode and that,
which is so weird. Yeah,
I know. But Mark Leonard's performance. Oh, go ahead, Giraffe.
No, I was gonna say, like, it's not the episode where he died, where we see where Perrin comes. Yeah, because that episode is amazing too. He does an amazing job, like when Picard goes to see him, and you see him like go back and forth between the now, the past, the then.
That was Unification Part 1.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Unification Part 1. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, Mark Leonard's performance in this one, it was incredibly nuanced in that, because he was, as a Vulcan, he was still trying to be the person that he was, and that the person everybody wanted him to be, especially at this point, his final mission and that. But he was great about allowing the little cracks to show through when, getting upset about the conference room and that, and how, everything wasn't ready and that. And his aide comes over. Perhaps it's time to rest.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he should use the ready room if he wanted to be ready. I'm just kidding.
I'm not even going to give it to you.
It's so sad. I'm like,
I love that episode. I mean, I love Mark Leonard. So any episode that he was in, which I think was just this and Unification 1, we're just so very good. We're so very good. And the brief moments that we got from him still going through Bandai Syndrome in Unification Part 1. I know it's not a full episode, but like Giraffe said, it's just so moving to see that calm and collected Sarek we know for those few moments until he kind of goes back into it again. And he was amazing. He really was. Yeah.
And then of course in this episode, Patrick Stewart and his performance at the end.
Yes.
Acting as a surrogate for Sarek's condition while allowing the ambassador to finish his life's work. He delivers probably one of the best performances in the series, and that the anger and that over the loss of control, the fixation with the past and the mistakes that they make in that, because like a lot of times it all comes down to like everything that you regret in life, and this tends to be what you focus on, and that with like degenerative aging illnesses and that it's like forming new memories, and that it becomes harder and harder, and that, and often what comes back up is everything that you went through in the past. And I love that performance, especially with and Beverly too there to help him.
Yeah. Well, and especially because we know what his regrets are, right? Like in TNG originally, before Discovery ever came out, we know it's because of Spock, right? But if you retcon it with everything we've seen in Discovery too, that that pain has a lot to do with Michael as well. And I'm getting goosebumps.
I love
talking
Michael.
About it.
I've rewatched Journey to Babel like this weekend. Damn, it's a complete. Yeah. You should do an episode on parenting in Star Trek. By the way, side note.
I'd be like,
Giraffe's just trying to worm her way into another episode.
I mean, we could be like,
I'm not a parent. I'm not a parent. Yeah. But I have a question though. What do you think about the fact that Picard, I think, is speaking about aging and how Picard has to find a place and he doesn't want to let go. But the Discovery, I feel, is totally removed from these questions. And I don't really know what they're going to, like, somehow they're opening new doors, but they're shutting down a lot of other topics that Trek used to speak about, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's not really a question. I think
we'll see. We have
more of a statement. Right?
I do want to say maybe Star Trek needs more French representation, because just the way you say Picard is more French
than
Picard his fucking self. Okay, like every time I hear you talk, you're like, "Here's the E-Day," and I'm like, "Yes, tell me about your E-Day. I love it. I'm here for it."
I think that has to do more with the serialization aspect of Discovery and the way they, it's like they can't just stop in a moment and just look at one thing and and talk it out right to the end.
Well, especially with the episode order, right? You just don't have as much time to go into that, unfortunately.
They just need an episode where it's like that new M. Night Shyamalan film where everybody's turning old and
no
they got to talk about
that whatsoever.
I don't either because it's actually based on a French book and somebody already spoiled it for me.
Oh no. I'm actually hearing a lot of good things about it.
I know it got good reviews.
Yeah.
Hawk, did you have anything else on this topic?
I'm pretty good. I've gone through the episodes and that I cool. As far as 2 episodes that deal with like issues and that, like,
I think it's a subject that you don't hear about getting talked about. This is not a knock on Star Trek podcasts at all, because there are amazing Star Trek podcasts out here. You just don't hear the subject get talked about. I think it gets overlooked a lot. So it's great that we talked about it tonight. So
yeah. Rewatching Half a Life and that, and given what we went through with the pandemic and that, and especially how hard nursing homes were hit and that,
people, gotta hit home for you.
Yeah. Especially like when he's talked about people dying alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go deeper. I'm going to just keep taking this.
We're going to keep diving.
Yeah, we're going to keep diving. I just want to preface saying that we're getting a little bit late on time. So what I'm going to do is next week for our patron collective choice episode, I'm going to have, if Eric is back, I'm going to have him kind of do a quick segment on what he would have wanted to talk about with Asian representation. Because I don't feel right, one, speaking on it, and two, we are getting a bit low on time. So I'm just going to do mine. We'll let Eric do his subject next week before we get into the patrons collective.
Then we'll make
choice.
Aaron do one.
And then we'll make Aaron do it too. She's back to it. It'll kind of be part 2 of this. I'm going to talk about, speaking of things, I guess all of these have been near and dear to our hearts tonight, I guess. I'm going to talk about mental health in Trek and how it's been oh my God. I'm already getting verklempt, how it's been represented in Star Trek. And listen, there's been a lot of bad representation of mental health in Star Trek. A lot of it gets a lot of cookie cutter bullshit and a lot of hand wavy. Oh, you're fine now. Yeah, this was solved, so we can just keep going on with our duties and this and that. So, I'm not going to talk about TOS tonight, but I do want to talk about a few TNG episodes. I want to start with episode 402, and that's family and dealing with John Luke's PTSD regarding being assimilated by the Borg. I think that this was the first time that like mental health was really at the forefront of Trek, and it was shown. Like he has to go, he doesn't do counseling aboard the ship. He goes home, which is an interesting thing, right? Because home for Jean-Luc is not where the heart is, right? He always had a hard time growing up because he wanted to do the exact opposite of what his family wanted him to do. They wanted to continue the line of, making wine and, watching over the chateau, and Jean-Luc was always looking to the stars. So he actually went back to the one place that maybe wasn't going to help him with his PTSD. And yet somehow going back to the chateau and seeing his brother and his wife and kids, it makes him realize and really come to terms with the fact that this is something that's always going to be with him. That I think that he came to the realization that he was always going to be a career officer at that point, and basically, smoothing things over with his brother, who he was very estranged with. This somehow was able to get him to listen. Did it cure him of his issues? And was this a little cookie cutter as well? No, but it helped him feel it, because he was never going to show these emotions aboard the Enterprise. And I think that's a big thing about what Star Trek has done over the years. People, even though Starfleet's supposed to, and Star Trek's supposed to be, about this future where, we're allowed to be the best of humanity, emotion still doesn't really get to be shown. We have characters like Spock and Data who want to become more emotional, but our human and alien officers don't necessarily get to do that. And for this one brief moment in family, Jean-Luc has this breakdown with his brother about everything that the Borg did with him. And this episode always sat with me because people, I'm guessing by listening to this podcast, know at this point that I suffer from depression. I have a lot of mental health issues. Again, it's a very near and dear issue to my heart. So to early on see this as a kid and see someone show their emotion, it made me realize, because listen, I have no problem breaking down and crying if I need to. It showed me that was okay. And I think that was a really big deal for this episode, because it was few and far between from here on out of really seeing that. Speaking of PTSD, you get the Wounded, an episode that we actually talked about a couple of weeks ago with, I'm going to forget the captain's name now.
Ben Maxwell.
Thank you, Ben Maxwell, who PTSD is going to be a major topic of this, and how Star Trek deals with PTSD of this officer who fought in the Cardassian Wars. And even though we do find out that he was in the right, makes some really bad decisions based on the trauma of losing his family in this war and the PTSD that he has because of that. And then justifying that. And this goes for the same thing in Chain of Command Part 2, another episode that we talked about with, you know, I mean, listen, when you talk about Jean-Luc Picard, is there a captain that has gone through more trauma and things that can just completely mentally compromise you than him? I don't think that you could say that there is, even being stranded in the Delta Quadrant with Janeway.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's been anyone who's been more emotionally compromised than Jean-Luc to be tortured and
emotionally compromised. That's J.J. Abrams' Spock captain.
I know. I knew that was
but
coming.
you do have like a little bit in TOS. I'd say like Captain Decker, that his whole crew dead and goes like totally like
yes.
Oh yeah.
Like,
The Doomsday Machine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it the Doomsday? Yeah, it's the Doomsday Machine. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he does. Yeah. He. Oh no, no, that's not Captain Decker. I'm sorry. That's
And isn't it the Doomsday Machine? Right.
Now I'm getting confused with episodes. Where's Rob?
Rob, I think it's the Doomsday Machine. Matt Decker.
No, Matt Decker.
Yes, it is the Doomsday Machine. Rob is saying yes.
See, I was right.
Rob says yes, so we have to agree.
Yeah, so it's okay.
He's our fact checker.
But this is an episode, and I can't tell you honestly if this is an episode I saw in TNG's original run because of syndication back then. But I mean, I've seen Chain of Command Part 2 thousands of times. And this is an episode that really, and we've talked about it on this show, really mishandles mental health, right? Because he gets back from being tortured. One, he gets his command back right away, which in real life, maybe I'm wrong and maybe I'm too hopeful of what happens. It would never happen. No one would be given their command back after that situation, but he gets his command back. He does make the right move of immediately, once getting his command back, to go in and talk to Counselor Troy. And who knows, listen, it was episodic television. You don't know what's happened in between if he went through extensive therapy. But like this episode did a really bad job of like showing what he went through. We know that he said that he saw 5 lights and he was about to give it all up, but like he, from only a few years ago to going through what he went through with the Borg, then to go through this, I mean, the man has been through stuff, whether you're a career officer or not, that's going to get to you. And I don't know if that was particularly handled the right way. So the next episode I want to talk to is one that before it even really started, I was tearing up. Giraffe watched this episode with me. This is an episode that I have a hard time with in a way that I think they kind of handled it well and not well in some points, and that is Hard Time from DS9 and dealing with being in prison. Now, listen, I haven't been in prison. Luckily, I never went to prison, but I made some really bad mistakes as a kid, and I got sent away somewhere. And that place was good for me for a certain amount of time. And then it got to a point where they brought in new staff and it wasn't. And I was physically abused and I was mentally abused. And I have that PTSD forever. It's to a point where if I have any kind of memories or dreams about it, they are extremely vivid. And it is always a very hard time for me when I go through it. To see Chief O'Brien go through this, where he has these memories of being in prison for 20 years, even though it was like 2 hours, 3 hours of time that actually passed by. and to see what he went through of suicidal thoughts, and it was just, it's always a very rough episode, and in some ways it handles that situation very well. It shows all the range of emotions, but what it once again shows is Star Trek and these writers in the 90s just hand waving it away, like he gets put back on duty, and then
right away.
And then all of a sudden, like, the minute that Julian's like, you're not allowed to be on duty anymore. And he goes to Cisco and he's like, I had to listen to the doctor. And then he has a phaser to his chin, like he's about to kill himself. And when Julian talks him down, it's a beautiful moment. But then to have it at the end of that episode be hand waved away with a hypospray, that kills me, because that's just not how it works. I mean, I guess it does for some people, like, who get put on meds. I don't want to get into a deep philosophical discussion. I've never been a big believer in antidepressants. I don't take them. I never will take them. I think that waving this away with a hyperspray is just another way that Star Trek does this, with hand waving topics that we've talked about tonight away. But I still think that it did some really good things in this episode to show that trauma. So
this was the whole argument about solitary confinement. I think that's probably what they based a lot of the episode around, was solitary confinement, and that, because the people who are experiencing long stretches in prison and that, and you're dealing with like really hard people and that, but like at the same time, when you shut them away in a room and that for, what can be weeks and that, and it's like they lose all sense of time. They lose basically all sense of reality.
And that's the thing with where I was. We were in the woods. It was the middle of nowhere. We had to build everything that we slept in. We had to cook all the food that we ate, and there's no technology. Like we couldn't have anything. So time just kind of passed in a really weird way for me for those 18 months. And during that time, my grandmother died while I was there. So there was a time that I really didn't know what was going to happen to me, and that was very scary. So this episode is very this one hits home in particular. I don't know anything. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, we're speaking about confinement, but let's remember that we have people that are stuck in ships in space for a long period of time, not seeing anybody else than their shift, not breathing real air. Like, we know NASA is actually working on, like, how to adapt people to this. And actually in TOS, there's a moment where somebody loses their mind and is going like, we're not supposed to be here. We should not be in space. Yeah. We're not supposed to be here. And I think like Star Trek goes like, oh, everybody adapted. We're all good going on like 5-year mission in a ship, like in the middle of nowhere. Seeing people die, by the way, horrible death, and just like going on merry ways. Yeah.
Excuse me. I don't want to spend too much time in this episode because I can't speak to it, but I think that It's Only a Paper Moon does a really good job with dealing with mental health issues when Nog loses his leg and he comes back with his new leg, but it's just not the same. And he this has been the recurring theme with what I'm talking about. And I think what some of other people have talked about tonight, with just getting thrust back into duty, right? And him just not being ready. And what does he do? He uses the holodeck to escape. And how many of us who've had mental health issues use something to escape, whether it's television, like Star Trek? Shit.
I was going to say, you're talking about me right now? I openly admitted that in the gay section.
Yeah, exactly. Like I used Star Trek as escape. Nog used the holodeck as escape. I think that in It's Only Paper Moon, though I have no experience with being an amputee, and I hope I never will, does a really good job. It is one of the best mental health episodes of Star Trek, and they did a very good job with it. I'm actually going to skip talking about Meld, which is still a very good episode with Tuvok, and I can't remember the character's name off the top of my head, but the
actor was Brad Dourif.
Very, very good episode. And then Pathfinder, an episode I watched today, which deals with addiction and Reg's holodeck addiction. This is excuse me. Sorry. This is like kind of my penultimate one before I get to my last episode that I want to talk about. This one doesn't, again, this kind of goes back to regressing of not dealing with mental health well, right? Because Reg has an issue, right? He talks with Deanna for over a few hours in his apartment about, his not holodeck addiction, which is definitely still an issue, right? It all gets hand waved away because he happened to be right. He happened to be right. So Starfleet just easily forgets that he broke in to Pathfinder headquarters. He rewired the system to allow him clearance, to which he was barred from entering, all because he was able to establish contact with Voyager. And that's a lot of what happens. Listen, it's a bit of a stretch, but it happens in real life, in schools, in jobs. Things get, kind of just thrown under the rug because you excel. Look at athletes and look at the really smart kids at school who their mental health issues just get thrown under the rug because they're excelling.
You're once again talking about me.
We're talking about, both of us in some form or another. That kind of leads me to my final episode, which I think really does a good job of dealing with mental health and PTSD. And that is Discovery 304, Forget Me Not. I know it did a good job because it made me uncomfortable in a very important and good way. Detmer's PTSD, it doesn't just get thrown away after episode 2, right? It's something that we deal with until about mid-season. Listen, when you're talking about mid-season of a 12 episode series, I don't think that that's a failure. I think that's doing well with what you're given. That dinner table scene where she cracks, this is what happens when you do swipe things under the rug and let people keep going, right? And not have a support system. The best thing and the best recurring theme about Star Trek Discovery has been about the family. Mm-hmm. Who has been, whether it becomes canon or not, who has been there for her through her whole PTSD issue? Owo, right? Owo. She has been there for her, and they show it with this in the subtlest ways, hints, little pep talks. They don't just let it slide and go under the rug,
for
right?
Movie night.
I love how this episode deals with it, and I love how they use something that's important to her to kind of help her get through it later on when she gets to take the sticks and actually fly a real ship and kind of remember like what she's good at. I think they did an incredible job with that. And I think that Star Trek, despite having some kind of, not so great moments of mental health, this is one of the stronger things that the show has always dealt with. They've definitely had some misses, but they've had a lot of really, really good hits when it comes to dealing with mental health on the show. And listen, for no uncertain terms, Star Trek is a very big reason why I'm here still. Like, it is an escape, but it is also a show, because of some of the episodes I've talked about tonight, have given me hope. And I think that is really important. So I hope that they keep doing it. I hope that we see more of it in Discovery season 4. I hope that, we get some more of it in Picard. I think Picard's going to deal with a lot of the issues that we've talked about tonight. So I just want to keep seeing Star Trek get more diverse in all of the subjects that we've talked about. And with that, I will say and ask if anybody has any final thoughts before we wrap up on the evening.
I have one.
Go for it.
Oh, you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
I think we've spoken about how we see ourselves represented in Trek, but I think even if it's not always doing a good job, it's doing a good job at raising awareness to other communities. So, for example, just for Detmer, the fact that for several episodes you see the signs. You see that something is going to happen. It like puts you in the position. What do you do when you see somebody that is going to crack? She's done well and nobody does anything. And you as a viewer, you're like, they should do something. Yep. Same thing for the half-breed insult. Like, you're put in the position of a spectator and you're like,
let's go.
What would I do? What would I do? Like, what would I do if I heard that? Like, if I seen that? And I think that's like the other side of the coin. It's good to see. I mean, they're doing a good job of helping people see themselves, but they're doing a good job to helping us see others.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think if there's one thing I agree, and that it's like it's great to be able to pose the questions and that, but you know, the fact that that we don't get an answer at the end that we want means that like with every one of these topics and that there is no easy answer in that, but at least we're talking.
And I agree with what you're saying, that even if, you know, it's easy for us to nitpick specific representation that's, you know, this is what I would like to see, or like, this is how I can see where there's faults or whatever. I'm still thankful that, you know, Discovery is given gay characters now, because like, if I would even had Discovery 5 years ago, 10 years ago, like my life would be drastically different. And that, like, to seeing representation of other people helps you as a person. So you don't have to be biracial to see biracial representation and then realize and recognize things about someone else. So for people that are homophobic, if you watch and consume media that contains people in it that are living happy lives, aren't being ostracized for being gay, you'll realize, wait, there's nothing wrong with these people being gay. And then you actually fight that sort of messed up thinking in your head and you learn your way out of it. Same with maybe people, you know, how many people pick on other people for having mental illness or automatically assume like this person's crazy, and they throw out words that, you know, they don't even know are as hurtful as they are. And then when you see that representation done, whether it's even done fully correctly or not, even in the small ways they're done, it at least allows people to realize, oh, other people exist outside of me. Other experiences exist outside of my experiences. Everybody's gone through horrible things in their life. Everybody's had beautiful things happen to them in their life. And like, this is a way to experience it without experiencing it. So
yeah,
very important.
I'm not going to let anybody else talk because I think that is a beautiful way to wrap up this episode. Chef's kiss, absolutely amazing. And Geeks with Kids, this might be Eric watching us live, says well said, and I couldn't agree more. To which I will say that is going to do it for this episode. I really hope that everybody watching tonight live and those who listen later in podcast form got something out of this episode. That's what we want to do. We want to make people think every now and then. And I think it's really important. So we hope this was a good one for you. We will be back next week with our Patron's Choice episode. And it's going to be a fun one. Giraffe, I want to thank you for joining us and coming up with this amazing topic, because we wouldn't be doing this episode without you. At least we probably would later on, but you brought it to the forefront, and we thank you for that. That's really amazing. So for Spotted Giraffe, for Brittany, for Hawk, I'm Julian. I say to you, live long and prosper. Majram, good night. We will see you next week.
Thanks for beaming into our podcast today. If you want to keep the hailing frequencies open, you can subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. Like what you hear? Put in a good word with Starfleet and leave us a 5-star review.